Okay, yeah, recording started. So I'll probably, I mean, this is a live stream I want to start doing. I'm going to be live probably 3 to 4 times a week anyway, between 9 and 11. So that's something to look forward to. So, Joy, in the chat, as you're in the chats, I just recently wrote an article about tunnel vision. Have a read of this. That's something you can do you can kind of read it in your own time. Let me know if the link works. So the link is an article. It's an article I wrote today. It's to do with tunnel vision. Let me know if that link works and it actually takes you to the chat. Awesome. That is really, really good. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we need to wait for a few more people to join before we can sort of hop on. It's gonna be an interesting, interesting sort of uh week. Let's see what we end up getting. So if I'm quiet, we're just gonna wait for a few more people to join. But if nobody else joins, I'll just give you a one-to-one sort of thing. So can you see my screen? This is the most important thing. You can, yeah, perfect, excellent, and you can hear me, which is good. So let's dive right into what I think is going to happen. So before we look at flow state, I just want to look at the market by itself. So I always like to go back to basics because basics is important. Hey Tonta, how's it going? Hope you're well. I know you're at the airport. If you can't speak, it's fine. Just maybe give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen and you can see the flow state or you can see my charts. Or you can type in the chat. Just say, yeah, I can hear you. But we're just going off of basics, right? So it's Sunday and we're going over basics, right? Basics are very important. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Tonta. So we're just going to go over the basics. We're going to go over kind of last week's trades, last week positions, some tips and tricks from last week, which I want all of you to remember going into this week, because this week it will be the same as last week. But yes, we'll have different levels and different movements, but it's going to be the same principle this week as it was last week, as it will be any week. So Joy, and also Tonta, you had the four-step positioning process. Joy, this is going to be very, very significant to you, but it's significant to anyone. Doesn't matter who it is. If we remember, we start with what we call the four-step positioning process, right? So the four-step positioning process, this will be good revision for everyone. So we have structure, targeted liquidity. Let me do the T better. Targeted liquidity, equilibrium, and then price imbalance, right? So market structure is obviously the highs and lows. Then we have the targeted liquidity, which is the most recent low and the most recent high. Yeah. Then we have equilibrium, which is essentially the very basic concept of once you have the most recent high and low, you just want to project the fib from the low to the high, and that's going to give you your equilibrium. Yeah, right? And so your equilibrium is this 50% area here. This number, this 50% number, is magical. It's a very magical number. I'll tell you why, right? Because if you look at last week, for example, and then of course we have price imbalance, right? And both of you know what a price imbalance is. This is a 15-minute fair value gap. And so this is where the four-step process leads on to order flow. So then we go on to the read method, which is recognize, evaluate, assess, and detect, right? So I recently made a zero about, sorry, I recently made a video about the zeros. I was going to say I recently made a zero. No, I recently made a video about the zeros where we went over detecting zeros. Tonta, we're kind of on this step with you right now. Joy, this is what we're going to be doing this week. We've done this step. We want to move on to the read. And both of these two systems, the step and read method, are very, very linked. Okay. And you're going to see that by the end of this video, by the end of this sort of a stream. So let's get into it. Now, price imbalance. Let's just focus on what we mean by a price imbalance. So we're going to look at last week's trades to give you some context. So what I want to break down in this particular stream, I want to sort of I want to have a few signature messages that I want to leave both of you with. And if you have any questions, both of you, I know you can't speak, that's fine. I want you to just I want, yeah, exactly like what Tonta's done. So brain fart, what is T? So you okay, so yeah, let's quickly go over that. It's a good question. It's a good question. No, it's a very good question. T is the one that trips people up, right? So what it is you have structure, which is basically the highs and lows, right? T stands for targeted liquidity, right? I might even change it to targeted highs and lows, targeted high and targeted low. And so what the T stands for is once you've got your structure, and you're going to see why the four-step positioning process is so important and why we use it with order flow. It's not just about order flow detecting zeros, it's about building the foundation to your key levels that allows you to then use order flow effectively. And so to answer your question, Toronto, the T stands for targeted liquidity or targeted highs and lows. So in other words, what that means is once you've got your structure, you then want to identify the most recent low and the most recent high, right? You're not so much focused on all these highs and lows and all these internal highs and lows. No, you want to focus on, I'll say that again, the most recent low and the most recent high. Everything else is internal. Okay, hey Sean, how's it going? And so once you've understood that, this is now your equilibrium, right? This is why the T is so important because T directly links onto E, and then E directly links onto P. So this is a system. We call it the four-step positioning process. All right. So why is targeted liquidity important? It's good that Tonta said that because I'm going to actually explain that again. The reason targeted liquidity is so important is because this is where you project the fib from. You project the fib from the low to the high, right? And like I told you, this 50% number is magical. I'll show you why, right? I'll show you why. I think a lot of people should understand it already. So if you look at last week's trades, for example, the trades which I think I caught one awesome long. James caught another different awesome long. So it's good when other community members start catching trades. It's the best thing ever because I love seeing other people use the concepts. I think it works, right? So this is the equilibrium right here. Now, if you look at last week, for example, this was Monday, right? It's crazy how much last Monday I wasn't available. I'll be available tomorrow. I'll probably be streaming at 9. This week I plan to do streams basically every day, Monday to Friday. How does that sound? I'll try and do them Monday to Friday because I know last week I couldn't do Monday. I'll try and do streams at least, I want to do them at least 4 times a week. So maybe Monday, Tuesday. Actually, no, we're live. So we may as well do it like this. Let's go here and see. So Forex Factory, you all can see this is, I only look at this. I don't care what the news event is. I just want to know what days and times are happening. So let's dive into this. So we got Monday. I'm going to stream tomorrow because we've got a news event. So there'll probably be a good trade, probably around this. This is UK time, by the way. So this is 10 a.m. Eastern. And then we got Friday. Oh, we got NFP. That's good. So this week's gonna be pretty good. We got NFP. We got some whatever this is. ISM. I don't know what that is. I'll be streaming on Monday and Friday. You know what? I might stream on all the days. I'll stream on all the days, to be fair. So now that we have this 50% error here, I want all of you to understand one thing. Last week, there was a trade on Monday, right? There was actually a pretty good trade on Monday here. Now it was from this yellow key level. So this was 20. Well, so for me, I've got it as 23 to 34.75. Let's just say 35. 23 to 35, right? This was Monday, which I wasn't around to catch it, but there was a trade at around probably 10:40 to about 11. Really good trade here. Tuesday, James Brown caught a really good long over here. I think I made a document about it over here. I definitely said something about that. Let me just bring it up. If it's here, I will. If it's not here, it's fine. I'm pretty sure James caught that long. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So James caught the long here. This was Tuesday. Okay. So Monday, Tuesday. This was FOMC, so I don't really like to trade FOMC. We were looking for longs here on Thursday, and then this was Friday over here. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is last week on Monday, so last week from Monday to Friday, this long here on Monday, this long here on Tuesday, and this long here on Friday. What do you notice about all three longs? This one, and this one. What do you notice about them? There's two things I want you to notice, right? And so this is where it starts to get interesting. First, I want you to look at it in terms of the step method, right? Or the step process. Joy, this is for you, especially this is where your homework is at, right? So I want you to look at yeah, there you go. There you go. But that's going to be the second thing. Same level, right? But if you look at it just from the basics, right? So the four-step positioning process, we had as like you said, we had a price imbalance and we had an equilibrium, right? So if you look at the equilibrium, we were below the 50% here, here, and here. So it's the very basic concept that we want to buy in discount. It's a very basic concept. All right. So this is why structure is important. You want to get your highs and lows. Then you want to find the most recent high and low. Then you want to project the fib and ask yourself, are we in premium or discount? So this is premium, this is discount, right? All these longs came in discount. That's not a coincidence. That's just how, that's just how it is. And then we have a price imbalance. So the really interesting thing is if you look at this key level, I think both of you said it, Joy and Tonta, but yeah, both of you said it. It came from this key level, right? 35 to let's say 23, around this level here, 23 to 35. And so the most fascinating thing, just so you can understand one more time, is this. In my opinion, the trading got easier as the week went on. And the reason why is because Monday showed you that buyers were in control. Tuesday, James took advantage and said, okay, buyers are in control. This is Monday, this is Tuesday. On Thursday, you know what's interesting? On FOMC, market chopped around a little bit. So okay, that's FOMC. We can forgive FOMC. Thursday, we were looking for longs. My friend Leo, he's in Italy, so it's very late for him in Italy, so he couldn't join us. This was Thursday, giving us evidence of buyers were active here. And then on Friday, the best trade of the entire week, on Friday, it did take a little bit of patience. It did take about half an hour to develop, but it doesn't matter. No, 45 minutes to develop, but it doesn't matter. I'll sit there and wait 45 minutes for a trade. I don't mind doing that. It's an hour and a half session. So, we get paid to wait. And there you go. So what I'm trying to demonstrate is exactly what Joy and Tonta said, that if you find the right level and you know where you are in premium and discount, it becomes pretty easy, straightforward, and fun to trade. And that's what that's the sort of thing I want everyone to understand. What's even more interesting is here, 2335. This was a flow state level, right? So another thing with flow state is it ready? It's the idea of having the tiniest bugs in the user interface, which is stopping it from going live. And I don't want to launch it and for it to go live. Then there's constant mistakes and we have to keep changing it. So I keep testing it with me and there's like four other people, one developer, one coder, and a couple of other people. I need to make sure it works before I launch it. But in terms of the actual accuracy, it's pretty damn accurate. Meaning, when you come to the session before 9:30 Eastern, you will know what level to trade from throughout the week. So your job is to understand why that's a level, really understand the order flow inside that level, and trade from that level. So last week we had 23 to 35 and it was there all week and it was literally telling you it's a demand, it's a support. So we've all heard the word support, demand, etc., bullish, fair value gap. This is the true science behind it. So that's it. And if you want to know where that level came from, just out of curiosity, it's a good thing to go back and see where it came from. So Tuesday, the 23rd of June, and there's a price imbalance here, right? Previous day low, price imbalance. If you know where your key level is, your trading becomes a lot simpler, straightforward, and hopefully stress free, right? That's the first thing I wanted to highlight. Now, the other thing I wanted to highlight is the same concept for the short, right? This is what's interesting. So, who remembers that massive short on Tuesday where I only caught maybe a small piece of it? I think it was, where was it? It was, yeah, this one here. This was, sorry, Wednesday. This is pre FOMC, Wednesday. Wednesday, the 29th of July. I didn't even catch that. I only caught it up to here, right? But as you can see, the trade really ran, right? Trade really ran, right? So I got out due to probably fear of FOMC. I thought I didn't want to sit and chop. I didn't expect markets to move down that much. However, that's okay. What I wanted to highlight here was number one, it's a key level. So this is now 60. I've got it at 63 to 53. What did flow state have? 54 to 64. So it's roughly the same thing. So what flow state's doing is it's looking at the prices where the key levels are valid. It's going through the read method. Okay, so let's just click on this, for example. Recognize, evaluate, assess, and detect. It's performing order flow analysis live, so it can tell you where to look at to confirm if it's a key level or not. Okay, so 54 to 64. So for me, I've got that as 63 to 53. So pretty similar, right? So what's interesting here is me and Leo were going over this on stream. I can't remember who else was on stream on Friday. I think it was Asaya. He's also not here right now, but it's fine. Wednesday short. This was a huge short right here. Wednesday short over here. This is Wednesday. Allowed for Friday's longs. Okay, this is not a coincidence. If you really look at what's going on here, this is how markets work. Okay, so here and here. Okay, this is not a coincidence, right? Markets are going to retest levels where there's passive buyers and passive sellers, right? So I recently wrote an article. It's called Tunnel Vision. I want all of you to check it out. In fact, what I'm going to do is I think Joy has seen it. I want everyone to kind of read it because I think it's a really good read. It kind of puts you in the mindset on how to think. I've just put it in the chat right now. What you want to understand is that the market has given you evidence of what it's done and what it wants to do. Your job is to read that evidence and react to it. Okay? And so the final message about levels is pretty simple. Last week there was one trade opportunity, two trade opportunities, three trade opportunities, four trade opportunities, maybe five if you count this, five. There was a short here as well on Monday, six. Okay. There was anywhere between four to six pretty good setups last week, roughly averaging one a day or one every other day. What do you notice about these setups over here? They all come from only one or two key levels. Everything outside of that is noise, or it's some crazy news event that you want to avoid, right? People often ask me, how do I trade FOMC, or how does FOMC affect my trading? It's very simple. Wait for it to happen and then trade afterwards. I don't even care what it does, to be honest. So that's something I wanted to go through in terms of levels, right? Just wanted to sum up last week's lessons because last week's lessons are going to be carried on to this week. They're just going to be on different levels, right? That's the only difference. So let's take a look at levels, right? So flow state hasn't updated. It should update overnight, right? These are still showing last week's levels. I left them on there on purpose because I wanted to demonstrate that. So now we're coming into these levels here. Okay, so let's just remind ourselves of how powerful these levels were, right? I want people to see how powerful, and here's another level to this one. I want people to see how powerful these levels are, right? And do not forget these levels. So right now, okay, right now we are here. So this is 30. Okay, I had this as 75.31 to 39. 75.31 to 39. So if we go here to flow state, is it, yeah, there, oh, look, 75.31 to 39. Okay, so what we can see here is we see a pictographic representation of the level. And what flow state's doing is it's performing the read analysis at that price interval, and it's telling you where there's been what we call absorption events. I want you to think of absorption events as markets leaving evidence of what it's done. Our job is to read the evidence, and when price comes to the level, react to it. In other words, where are sellers and buyers hanging out? Where are they sitting? What evidence has the market given us to trade here? So let's take a look at this now. So performing read analysis, 31st of July at, this is going to be 3:45 p.m. So 8:45 my time. So if we go to 31st of July, somewhere around here, 31st of July, wherever this is, here it is. Sorry. 31st of July is going to be around here. 20:45, which is 3:45 Eastern, which is around here. What it's saying is passive sellers, right? So I think Tonta, I sent you this trade. I didn't take it myself. This was a really late in the week trade. There was an opportunity right at the end, right? So what was really going on is that markets hit a supply area. Okay, markets hit a supply, and that's what flow state's calculated for us. Flow state has said at 31 to 39, there's a resistance area. Sellers are sitting here. So in other words, if we break above, you sell. If you break above, you buy, right? And so that's kind of what I was demonstrating to Tonta. I was like, well, there is a level here. Okay, there is a level. And this was a really good July level. I thoroughly enjoyed this level in July. I'll tell you why. So just to make things a little bit clearer, get rid of that one. So Friday the 17th, all of you can go back and do some quick homework on school. Friday the 17th, there was an awesome short over here. I caught this one. Monday, a little bit outside of hours, wasn't able to catch this one. Okay. Then on that week, Tuesday, so Monday, Tuesday, then on Wednesday, I don't know if any of you remember, there was a long, right? This was Wednesday. There was a long that I took here, like this. And then this is the same level that ultimately dumped price from premium because we're above the 50%. Don't forget that, funnily enough, from premium. Okay. Now, what flow state is telling us, hey, this is a supply area. Hey, there's lots of sellers sitting over here, right? There was obviously a big seller sitting over here that caused price to dump. Now, why is that significant to us? The reason that's significant to us is because those same sellers, at the moment, it's way too early to tell, those same sellers have violated the zone. That's interesting. Okay. Now, the same thing is true for this level, right? What you'll notice is that these levels here, they come from previous day lows and previous day highs. So this is a previous day low, right? And this led to a huge sell off again from premium. This was a previous day high that led to multiple sell offs in premium. So, what I want you to understand is that previous day highs and lows with the price imbalance, with the fair value gap in premium or discount is the foundation to finding key levels. That is essentially the step process right there. Okay. Okay. You want to find the highs and lows, the most recent high and low, draw the equilibrium, get your price imbalances. So, places like here and here. And then what do? Then you perform the read analysis inside of these levels, right? And the read analysis helps you see who's in control between buyers and sellers. Now, if this seems confusing, overwhelming, or difficult, or whatever, it's the only bridge that you have to cross is what I call practice, screen time, experience, and that's not something I can give you on a webinar or live stream. Trust me, if I could, there'll be way more zeros on the end of it. Trust me. But it's just the idea of following the process so that you can see the levels, right? Then it becomes a lot easy. Then it becomes way easier if you just know what levels to trade from. So we're using this theory going into the week ahead. And so going into this week ahead, I have some levels, right? It's for me, the levels are, this is just me right now, not flow state. I'm going to update flow state. By tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern, it'll be updated for everyone. What I'm seeing is this, right? What I'm seeing is this. I have 1, 2, and 3. So I expect price to, fiddle around at all these levels. If we break above 1, then we're seeing an all-time high. If we start to see dumps, then we could see dumps from here to there. So it's very simple, right? I know what levels I'm going to trade from, I know what times I'm going to trade from, and I know why I'm looking at it. Done. And there is reason for higher prices. I'm just eyeballing it now. We have Asia high over here. Okay, we have Asia high. We have the previous week high over here. We have reason to keep going higher. Then from one of these levels here, we're going to dump, in my opinion. But that's how I see it. So nothing too crazy. It's way too early to predict anything. But yeah, I hope that was useful. I hope you all found that useful. Anyone have any questions on levels or what we're looking for, or anything like that, or anything order flow based or anything like that? Again, too early to tell in terms of what I think is going to happen, but it is what it is. Everyone definitely check out the ATAS Part 2 series. This is about zeros. Specifically, it's about zeros. So, inside of all these key levels, you're looking for a zero specifically to make long or short, but yeah. Okay, it seems a bit silent, which is fine. I'm going to be streaming tomorrow anyway, around probably 9:15 to 9:30. I'll be live at that time. I'm going to stop this recording.